You got involved in a ministry here that made you become Catholic.
Right, I did. My name is Toni Springman. I've been married to Brian for 30 years, and we have 3 young adult children. My family are not faithful people. As growing up, I tried to get out of the home because it wasn't a happy home. So my bus driver was the mayor of the town, but he also drove the bus for the seniors for Sunday worship. And so I would beg him and have him pick me up. And I would go to church, and I went to church as a child by myself, just to be a part of something, be in a group.
To a Catholic church?
To a Baptist church.
To a Baptist church.
Yes, so I did that most of my life, and continuing throughout my life, I always stayed with the faith, and I always felt God's presence.
Life was hard.
Life was hard. I was very poor. We lived on a farm when I was young, and then I had to move into my grandparents' house, and then even when we moved to Charlotte, I've always went to church, and I've taken my kids to Baptist churches. There were tornadoes in my hometown of Pisgah, Alabama. My whole family lives there, my mother, my sister, my brother. It's where I was born and raised. It's where I rode the bus to church. And I was on the phone with my mom, and the tornado came right across the top of our house and we have these huge trees, and the tornadoes took the trees down. And I'm on the phone with her, and she's hysterical, I'm hysterical. And then after it, she's like, I'm in the tornado. Well, it took all the trees, but it didn't take the house. It left the house and her in it. I needed to go and help. So my husband and I, we just started asking for food and for gas for chainsaws and a generator, and we got in my little red truck, which I thought was just gonna fill that up, but it turned out I filled up a U-Haul. And people said, go to Toni and Duke Oxford's, and I went over there. They were my neighbors. I'd never met them before, and they helped me. We filled the U-Haul.
With food?
With food. And I drove it to Alabama, and I was there before the National Guard, and I started handing out food. And then when the National Guard got there, me and my mom drove my little red truck around full of ice. I came back, and I had to help Toni. I needed to know what she was doing, and I got involved in Mels Diner. Well, I like that they take action. And I would go over there at least 3 or 4 times a week and visit and help and doing whatever they were doing.
Help what? For those of us that don't know,
Toni and Duke were the founders of Mels Diner. And Duke started out with 1 casserole going out to a family in need and offering up the casserole in prayer. And so then they started collecting more and more food, and there's quite a few of them that were in the beginning, just doing it, like 5 or 10 of them, and then it grew and grew. And then a 3rd grader got them a truck, raised enough money to get a truck, and they painted the truck, and then they started hauling more food in the truck. It's usually apartment buildings, so we can get more people that way, and then they knew that we were coming every Saturday.
And you end up converting?
I ended up converting whenever I was at Toni and them, because I just wanted to be closer to God. I wanted to know more. First I learned the prayers, even though I wasn't Catholic. The Hail Mary, the Glory Be, and I already knew Our Father, because that's, it's a general prayer. And I call her my godmother, Ivana Helva. She was Catholic, and I kept talking. She said, well, let's just go to RCA and see what it's about. We can both learn more about it. So I was like, okay, let's go. Because her kids would come with me and do Mels Diner, and they were always at my house. And so I'm like, okay, let's do it. So we started going, and I met Dick and Jack and Christine and all them, and the more I learned, the more I wanted to be a part of it. Mels Diner, we take food that they're going to throw in the trash, and we take it and do something with it. We either, if it's non-perishable, we put it in a grocery bag and we give it to a senior community that, you know, can't quite make their weekly groceries. And then we have people, sometimes we pull from that. We pull, like, if there's fresh beans, or if there's beans or something we can cook, or fruit that we can put in the bags, we do that. We do lunches for the kids. We have a lot of donators. It's not just Saturdays. Mondays I pick up food, Tuesdays I pick up food. I pick up food every day of the week, and I make sure it goes somewhere that it gets to somebody that can eat it. But Saturdays is our big day. Well, we prep on Fridays, and then on Saturdays, I make sure that there's people in the kitchen cooking and spooning up food and bagging it. We have dishwashers, and I love greeting all the people that come in. And there's like, it's great what you do, and I'm like, well, it takes all of us. And
why do you do it? What do you get out of this? Because I see you running around here like a crazy lady all the days of the week. What is it?
I love it.
Why? What do you get out of it?
Well, the smiles, the thank yous, the knowing that people are not hungry. I've walked into those apartments and it's moving. From being in the pew, I would always step over this lady to go to communion. Finally, I asked her, because I knew her, I'd always spoke to her, and her husband always got up and went for communion. I said, why don't you at least, just go for a blessing. So I got her going for the blessing, and I said, are you, your husband's Catholic, you're not Catholic. And she said, well, she was baptized, but I've never been through communion. She had $2 been through communion. But I said, well, would you like to become Catholic? And she said, yes. And I'm like, she said no one had ever even asked her. Not even her husband had thought to even ask her if she wanted to become Catholic. And so I did that. That was like, well, somebody help me now. I get to go through RCA with somebody else. So
and you went through RCA with her?
Yes.